Darren Winham, Economic Development Director for the town of Exeter, with another episode of Economic Development in Exeter. I'm here with Samantha Brown, the owner of Cascade du Chocolat, one of the businesses that are in our downtown and has been around for almost a whole year at this point. How you doing, Samantha?
Hi, great. How are you?
So I just want to ask you, tell me about chocolate. Why chocolate?
Chocolate is one of my favorite things to eat, first of all. I have been eating and loving chocolate since I was very, very young. That was always the first thing I put on my Christmas list every year. And as I got older, I did a lot of reports in school on chocolate and the history of chocolate and why chocolate is so wonderful. And then about 10 years ago, I found a school that could actually teach me how to work with chocolate. And it has been part of my life the whole time.
So how did you transition from the passion to the business?
From passion to the business was a little trickier than I had anticipated. Chocolate is not easy to work with, contrary to popular belief. You can't just melt it down and make things out of it. There's a long process that goes into making chocolate, but we really wanted to explore all of that and see how far we could go. So I made some chocolates at one point, probably about 15 years ago, for friends for Christmas, and they all loved it and said, "You should do this."
Nice.
I said, "Really? Are you sure?" And they were very encouraging, my friends and family, so we tried it, and here we are.
So you mentioned a second ago about the training and schooling. So what type of specialized training do you have that allows you to be able to do this?
So I went to an online school, online program through Exeter Chocolat in Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, wow.
From there, it was a pretty intense online school. And then from there, I actually traveled to France for a couple weeks for training at the Valrhona Chocolate School. And I earned my Master Chocolatier certification there. I've also taken a couple of classes in Italy. I had lots of gastronomy training.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we've done a lot, and we continue to take classes online, as well as there's now a Valrhona school in Brooklyn, which we are very happy about. So we're going to take classes there. So we're constantly learning new fun things about chocolate.
So you were talking about you teach classes here as well.
We do. We teach classes in tasting, in history, in making. We teach classes in our most popular one right now is truffle making. We teach bar making classes. We teach tempering classes. We're actually going to be doing a summer camp for children on becoming a junior chocolatier.
Oh, wow.
So that'll be over the summer, so we can look forward to that.
Nice.
We're very excited.
And can one find all this on your website?
Most
or
of
the
information's all on our website, lcdcnh.com or lacascadeduchocolat.com. The classes we're still ironing out. They're only through June right now. We'll be posting the next set probably in a couple months.
So you have this training, you have the knowledge, and so I know that you have you have a couple partners, I believe your husband and your friend, his wife and stuff, so you talk about that sort of arrangement, and then what brought you guys to Exeter, because I know you're not from here, so I'm sure folks would like to hear about that.
Sure. I actually am the only one of the four of us that grew up in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a New Hampshire baby. My husband, I met him in college. He's from Rhode Island. He actually is interested in making chocolate from the beans.
Oh,
we don't do that here commercially yet. We play around at home a lot with it. So he's working on that. And then my apprentice was Tom Nash, and he is now a master chocolatier as well. He's from Brooklyn, along with his wife, Anna. So between all of us, Tom and I make chocolate. My husband does all of the marketing and design work, and then Anna does all of the accounting and lawyering and things like that.
But you started as a home-based business. Was it in Manchester, I think it was? Or
in
someplace?
Hooksett.
In Hooksett. And then, so you started to grow a little bit, and you said, we have to find a place.
We did.
And you chose Exeter, and so we all want to know why.
As a native-born New Hampshire, New Hampshireite, I love Exeter. I've always loved Exeter. It's just this beautiful, beautiful downtown. There's always something happening. There's a huge sense of community. Everybody down here is, we have found them to be very kind and open arms all of the time. They're very supportive of local business, which is great, especially as a new business starting up. So while we chose Exeter, we were looking for a spot. We were looking in the Seacoast area because we all love the Seacoast, and it just happened to be there was a building that was for rent. We had looked and looked and looked for about 4 to 6 months when we forever when we finally found this location, which is perfect. We had to build out the kitchen, but other than that, we were ready to go.
Gorgeous space. You get to see the river in the background. It's awesome.
It is. It's beautiful.
Okay, so one of the other businesses in town, a long-standing business called the Chocolatier, does great business just like you folks do. And speaking with them and speaking with you, I find that you're very complimentary of each other. I wonder if you might be able, add some sort of color behind that.
Absolutely. We have actually thought about doing even a chocolate tour of the seacoast and having a nice map or something so that you could find everybody. The Chocolatier is a great business. They do wonderful work. They are well established as your go-to kind of chocolate place for a lot of your traditional candies that you grew up with.
Right.
We are a French-style chocolate shop. We have about 20 different kinds of chocolate we work with from so many different countries. We really try to focus on the taste of each individual chocolate. I mean, dark chocolates alone, we have 10 different kinds of chocolate, all from 55% all the way up to 100%. And they all taste differently, just like wine does. So we really, here at the shop, we focus on that. We have cafe tables, we have pastry, we have hot chocolate and chocolate. So if you come into our shop and you can't find something that you're looking for, we often will say, go see the Chocolatier and see if they have what you're looking for. They're a great business to have in downtown, and we look forward to partnering with them often.
And so we'd love to see your operation and check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll invite you back into the kitchen, but I can tell you that anybody who comes in can come see our kitchen.
Wonderful.
We actually have a hallway with giant windows, so you can always see what we're working on in the back. So come on back.
Thank you. I'm Darren Winham.
Hi, Peter.
Nice to meet
Peter
you.
Wells.
You are an Exeter resident,
Yes, we are. We live right up on High Street.
and you've been coming in here since they've opened.
Since they've opened, yes. I think we're a pretty regular customer now.
And what do you buy here?
We buy the same chocolate every time, a dark chocolate with almonds.
Excellent.
They've tried to get me to buy some other ones, but we've stuck with what we like.
Excellent. And so you obviously support local business, and my question for you is how important do you think it is for locals to support local business, especially in downtowns?
It's very important. We love all the downtown merchants. We buy all our books from Dan down the street, and Whirly Gigs used to be for our kids, and now it's for our grandkids.
And Blue Moon and stuff.
And we just had lunch at the Blue Moon.
Excellent.
And they're all wonderful.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Just really quickly, these are 3 of the bars that have won international gold medals from the International Chocolate Salon. We were also just named Best of 2018 Master Chocolatier Award from the International Chocolate Salon as well for our work in our bars. So it was a pretty special award we just found out a couple of days ago. So we're very happy to share that as well. So come on in and try one of our bars or bonbons, and you can see what everybody's talking about.
So here we are in the back with Tom Nash and Sam. Tom is Sam's partner, one of Tom's wife and Sam's husband. The 4 of them are the partners, and so now we're going to hear about the business. Take it away.
All right, so welcome back to the kitchen. We do everything by hand here. We have no machinery that really works with chocolate other than a microwave and an oven. So everything else Tom and I do with our hands. So Tom is actually going to temper chocolate by hand. You can buy a machine to do that, but we find that when we are working with chocolate, it is far more helpful to work by hand. By hand, we really can control the temperatures really to a T. We can get the correct crystallization that we are really looking for. Sometimes we overseed, sometimes we underseed, sometimes we nail it right in the middle. We have more control over what we're doing. And therefore our product, even though it's far more time consuming, is very, very special to us because we literally do it by hand. So I'm gonna motion over to Tom's slab. And Tom is actually going to demonstrate tempering. Tempering is the process of heating chocolate, which has a polymorphic crystal structure because of the cocoa butter. He's going to heat the chocolate. He's going to heat the chocolate up to around 120 degrees Fahrenheit we work in Celsius in the shop because most of our stuff is from Europe, but about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and then he's going to pour it onto the marble, the granite slab, and move it around. We need to cool it evenly through agitation in order to get the crystals to start forming. Crystals, the formation of crystals 1 through 4 will all occur on the slab. Once he puts it back into the bowl, 5 will start to form. 1, 2, 3, 4, if he does it correctly, will melt out. 5 will be left, and then overnight, the 6th one will form. It contracts its final amount, and then we have that beautiful, shiny snap finish, if he does all those steps right.
And he will.
And he will.
I'm heating the chocolate to about somewhere around 52 degrees Celsius. So I can melt out the crystals that we don't want before I cool it to get the crystals we want back.
Can you converse while you're working?
I can. Tempering is a very delicate thing, so if you lose me for a moment while I'm doing it, I'm just in the zone.
Why don't you tell us about your passion for chocolate and how you got involved?
I eat a lot of chocolate all the time.
Does everybody start that way?
I think they do. I think they watch Willy Wonka. I think they dream of the waterfall, which is where the name of our chocolate shop comes.
Oh.
Cascade du Chocolat in French is the chocolate waterfall. So that's where that is from. And then you eat a lot of chocolate until you find great chocolate. And some people are inspired then to do something with that chocolate, which I was. And others just eat it, which is good for us because we need those people.
And you guys, you and your wife are from Brooklyn?
Brooklyn, New York.
Now, why New Hampshire?
We wanted to start a family, and Brooklyn is not necessarily our ideal place for raising a family. New Hampshire seemed a lot more child-friendly, peaceful, calm, clean. No state income tax helps.
Yeah.
Compared to New York City. All right, so I'm going to get this on the slab because I was at about 52 degrees Celsius.
Gotcha.
I'm going to start cooling it off. Yeah, my diet is about 75% chocolate. I'm not exaggerating either.
So Sam is back. She went and they were kind enough to close the shop for this interview, and that hasn't stopped customers from coming in.
It does not. We're usually here Mondays and Tuesdays making things anyway, and if we're not open, just knock on the door. We will most certainly let you in. So Tom has tempered the chocolate. He moved it around on the slab. He is now going to test it. And in a couple of minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, usually sooner, but in about 2 to 5 minutes,
It'll be sooner.
If that is crystallizing properly, it won't have any streaks. It'll be a little bit shiny. It'll start to lift off from the paper because, again, those crystal structures are contracting as they get harder. So if that is all ready to go, he can then do whatever he's going to do with it. Make bars. Here we're going to enrobe some truffles. That's when we can pour it into molds for eggs or for bonbons or things like that. The most we can make at one time, because everything is done this way by hand, is 40 bars per batch. To temper the chocolate, to heat it up, to get the molds ready and everything else just for bars is about a 2-hour process, and then we have to wait till the next day, and then we also do all the packaging here. So then we have to package all the bars. So it's not a very hard necessarily process once you have all of the skills, but it is very time consuming, it's very labor intensive, and we think it's pretty special. So what Tom is doing right now, he's taking the tempered chocolate. You can see it's starting to harden up over there. In a couple minutes, he knew it was ready just based on what it was doing. When you work with chocolate enough, you can tell when it's ready to go. You can tell the signs of it. We'll also check back in a couple minutes and you'll be able to lift it right off. So what Tom is doing the first layer on a batch of truffles we made. These are actually vegan raspberry truffles. It's a vegan butter-based ganache with raspberry puree. We, in the shop, use as many local and organic ingredients as we possibly can, and when they are not local or organic, we try to get the best quality ingredients we can. We don't use extracts in general here, just because I think they taste kind of chemically, and you don't really get the essence of a raspberry when you have raspberry extract. When you have real raspberry puree in a bonbon, it tastes like a tart raspberry with chocolate, as opposed to tasting like sweet raspberry-esque kind of flavor. So he's putting the first layer of chocolate. You can see that the bonbons are already starting to crystallize and harden up. We do this 3 to 4 times per batch. So this is the first layer. This will crystallize. We have to wait again. And then we'll do another enrobe, and then we wait, and another enrobe and wait. And then eventually they will, once they've had their 24 hours final sit, we can decorate them. The raspberry ones we paint with a metallic luster and a little bit of vodka. You don't taste the vodka, and it's not for anything other than to make
It evaporates out.
the paint, essentially. So yeah, that's what he's working on here. The bars, bonbons, in addition to the chocolate that we use here, we also get in a lot of bean to bar chocolates. We know of many chocolate makers from around the world. Some we know very personally, and some we just love their chocolate and always have. Tom and I are constantly tasting chocolate from everywhere and anywhere. This morning, Tom had ordered a specific bar that is made with camel milk, for example, and we might be getting that one in. We also have unique bars that are 100% bars from Hawaii that they sold out in a couple of weeks when we got them in, so we need to reorder that. We have tons of vegan bars. We have gluten-free bars. We have bars made of goat's milk, sheep's milk, camel milk, donkey milk, coconut milk, and everything in between. We have ghost pepper bars, we have ginger bars, and those are all bars that we get in from chocolate makers. And then we have our own set of bars that we also make based on the chocolate and how it tastes, and the inclusions that we really love putting with each chocolate. Because each chocolate tastes differently, we pair them very specifically. All dark chocolate is not the same. This particular chocolate, which is Banjari,
Yep.
this is a single origin Madagascar dark chocolate. Madagascar chocolates tend to be very fruity, which is the reason that we are enrobing it around a raspberry truffle. So you get the tart raspberry, and then you get a very beautiful dark chocolate that also has those very strong fruit notes, and all you're going to get is this burst of chocolate, and that is how the chocolate is. It's based on the soil and how it's processed and what it grows around. The raspberry, like I said before, is this fresh raspberry taste, and so it makes a dynamite truffle.
So I have a couple quick questions. So one of them is, so you guys really taste stuff to try to get an idea of what you want to continue, and then the Hawaii chocolate's a great example. It sells, your customers like it, you'll get that back just like the folks that came in, or the woman who came in a minute ago, and you were sold out of, what was it?
Rose truffle, yes.
Rose truffle. And so that's how you guys do it. You're really kind of learning as you go, learning the market. Now, the second question I have is the future. Now, sometimes with small businesses, they take off. And then you find that folks may want this product in another location. Is that something that would ever interest you, or is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. We actually right now, so we ship all over the U.S. and all over the world right now.
Direct from here.
Direct from here.
Right, right.
It's one of the reasons when we get orders, we try to mail them out as soon as humanly possible, but some orders we've gotten in from very large companies that want a large quantity, and we kind of go, oh gosh, we've got to make 150 bars in the next 2 hours.
Right.
So it's a little tricky. We do sell wholesale to a couple of places, including the Courier Museum in Manchester. The local Moose Cafe in Manchester has some of our bars. The A&E Coffee Company, they actually buy our homemade chocolate syrup to use in all of their coffee mocha drinks. I'm missing
Any Exeter places?
Native
New Hampshire.
Native New Hampshire over in Rye. They have a lot of our bars. So yeah, we are very happy to work with whomever comes in and whoever wants to work with yummy chocolate.
As far as Exeter places, last year, before we had the
Oh, yeah,
shop,
Cymbidium.
we did a line of strawberry rose truffles for them that they were selling with their flowers.
For Valentine's Day.
Right. And so if folks are interested in working with you, they should just get a hold of you directly right through the shop, and
Absolutely.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of colleagues on the other side of the glass. Did you guys have any questions you wanted to ask? You had some really good ones earlier, before the camera was on.
I'm just very fascinated by the whole experience of chocolates that you don't really understand until I appreciate you explaining it.
It's-
Having this separation and watching what Tom does is just fascinating.
It's-
incredible.
It's a very different world. I know when I first started working with real chocolate, I had only ever been exposed to like most people. I loved Lindt truffles, and there was a small candy store in Derry, New Hampshire, near where I was from, that I always got my bunny from and my Santa from when I was growing up, and that was our special chocolate. And then when I started really working with better chocolates and more small batches and single origin chocolates, which is it can mean many things, but it can either mean it's from one particular plantation in one particular country or several co-op plantations. And then when you start really tasting chocolate, it's more like tasting wine.
Right, the variation of it.
Right, and chocolate actually has 3 times the flavor profiles as wine does. So it's so interesting, and it's such a very large world for such a small amount of chocolate. 90% of the world's chocolate, 92-ish% of the world's chocolate is that mass-produced, really low-quality bean that they add tons of sugar to.
Right.
We're dealing with that other percentage of such a small amount. Tom and I we ordered one of the rarest chocolates in the whole world. And it should be here, Wednesday?
Wednesday.
We're so excited.
What is it?
It's a
Peruvian Marignon
bean. It is, so, not to get too in detail, because I could talk forever, but so I would say, about 8 to 10 years ago, a lot of research started going into fine flavor cacao beans, kind of like there was a big boom in coffee.
Right.
And coffee became, what kind of bean do you want, and what kind of brew, and et cetera, et cetera.
So what's your favorite bean? What
I like
bean?
Madagascar.
You like Madagascar?
He likes Peru.
And so,
specific Peruvian,
Peru,
because
yes,
generally
yes.
Madagascar is great too, but
Yes.
there's one specific Peruvian bean or region that I like.
so when I first met you, I'm going to sandbag you a little bit. So when I first met you guys, you were having a bit of a competition about who makes a better chocolate chip
competition.
cookie. And
It
so
is-
where are we at now with that? Do we have any consensus?
We haven't
any
used either in the
concession?
shop.
We haven't actually.
We used Michaela's recipe, which is delicious,
Yeah.
and it's just a way to keep things neutral, but because I don't want to
One
embarrass
day.
Sam in public.
But why not a contest? Why not you have your
I
customers
know, we're going to
try?
have to have 2.
Yeah. Have your
Or we
customers
could have all
try.
3.
Yeah, see?
And I will win, and then you will be sad. But that's okay.
So yeah, you were saying about
So
the
anyway,
Peruvian that's
the
coming in?
beans.
Yeah.
So long ago, we only thought there were 3 different kinds of beans: Trinitario, Forastero, and Criollo, thank you. Criollo. We have now discovered that...
That was a Rick Perry moment.
I
Just
know,
saying.
it's like, what's happening?
And a third one.
And the
Yeah.
third one that shall remain nameless. We now know that there are 12 that we know of, and more being discovered as places like the Fine Chocolate Industry Association and the
Heirloom Cacao
Preservation Initiative. They're actually genetically mapping all of these different kinds of cacao beans, trying to find out what makes a fine flavor cacao bean, because there are mass-produced chocolate and that has its own place. We're trying to work with finding that fine flavor cacao. And they are mapping it and trying to decide how we can preserve that. The fine flavor cacao, of course, tends to be very susceptible to disease and grows in places where there are things like volcanoes. And the entire place can be gone in entire plantations just gone. And then it takes all of that time to regrow it and everything else. So there are a lot of companies out there that are trying very hard to save that fine flavor cacao, which is a very small percentage of cacao. It's not the mass-produced plantations you see in Africa necessarily, though there are some good quality beans in Africa as well. They're just harder to find.
So you guys are basically saying, okay, so things are discovered, stuff is new, and you're ordering it, bringing it here, and then you're manipulating it. You're figuring out what the best way to utilize is, and then sort of packaging is not the right word, but manipulating it and then offering it to your customers, and then seeing with that.
We are trying to bring.
That's like you're like a science. It's like more scientific than it is, trial and error.
A lot of science.
It is. It's a lot more science than melting chocolate and putting it in a lollipop mold.
Right.
There's a lot happening, especially in the chocolate industry now, that people are more aware of where their food comes from, what they're doing with food, that slow food movement. Everybody wants to know all the way back, where's it coming from. Tom and I are actually talking about bringing in chocolate in next month or April that is grown, made in the U.S. in Hawaii. So there's a couple plantations in Hawaii. It's as far north as you can get and still grow cacao, and even then it's a little iffy. But they're taking the beans, they're making the chocolate. We are making the chocolate into other things. So we will literally be from the bean to the bonbon, right here in this little shop, and it's all made in the U.S., which is pretty neat. That chocolate is. It's really, really special. It's really delicious. The people that are growing it and are making it into chocolate from the bean are very meticulous. They're very focused on that high quality product. And then as we are, when we get it in, what can we do with it? How we can make the chocolate shine and complement it rather than just throwing a bunch of stuff together and saying, yay.
Well, that's why it sounds like it's very interesting to me, because thinking about it from a business standpoint, right? Because obviously you've got to make a profit. You have to be able to pay for all the lights and the nice view out the back. Right, exactly. So then you not only have to sort of, it really is trial and error. It seems that to me that it's really trial and error, because then you're obviously paying quite a bit of money to have Peruvian chocolate brought in here.
Yes.
And then if you have to do that at any volume, I'm sure that's going to cost, because it's such frankly small quantity. The shipping, the cost structure is very different than if a large shipment comes in or whatever.
Yep.
And so that again is another thing that is really a science, because you're also trying to figure that process out as you go. Especially as, frankly, a startup that hasn't been here a whole year. So, wow.
It's a
very
very delicate balance too,
Right.
between Tom's stomach and what we actually do with the shop, because when we taste chocolate, some of us taste more chocolate than others, and we need to make sure that there is some left for the customer.
I eat my supply.
He does.
By the way, I want to note that I'm using my left hand for
Nice.
this. Remember when I wasn't a lefty 5 minutes
Do you
ago?
remember when you didn't wear an apron and you have chocolate all over your front now?
This is a working shirt, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
So we were talking about tempering chocolate a little earlier. What Tom did, once the tempering is done, what we do is we make them into other things. Again, like we were talking about. We're working on Easter stuff right now. We were on Chronicle last year for our Easter eggs, so we're just going to pop these out. So what I did was I decorated the mold beforehand. And then I'm going to handle them with the cotton gloves so I don't get fingerprints all over it. And because we can control, like I said, control the temper and the temperature really well, we get a very shiny, beautiful result. So these are our nebula eggs. They're very shiny and pretty, and that is the same kind of edible mica. Some of it is edible gold, some of it is real silver. But yeah.
And they're hollow.
They are. These ones are hollow. We make ones that are filled with almonds and sea salt, for example. We have ones that are filled with organic puffed quinoa, which kind of just tastes like a crunch bar that's super crazy and nutty. These happen to be hollow, and then we have our hand-painted ones, which we will take colored cocoa butter and we will hand paint individually all of the eggs. We will have owls this year, turtles.
Put me down for an owl. Just saying.
An owl.
Oh, yeah.
Robin's eggs. We'll have Woody Allen.
Yes,
What?
because it's Jewish. Watermelon.
Watermelons. Watermelons. We'll have watermelons. All different kinds of ones. We also have our little Easter bunnies. So we also have little bunnies this year. Our Richard the Rabbit is what we're calling him, and he has a beautiful little bow tie. And those will also be for sale in white, milk, and dark. So I'm going to lift him out.
Wow.
Isn't he so cute?
Yes, he is. Now, he's solid, I assume.
He is also hollow.
He's hollow as well?
He has a lot of
And so
heft to him, but he's pretty
Can you
hollow.
describe the challenge of making something like that hollow, with the egg especially, because that seems very large.
Sure. Yeah, so what we do is we'll take a decorated mold. These aren't quite finished being decorated. We pour chocolate in half of the mold.
Yep.
We put the other half on top of it. And then the lucky person who gets to stand around, which is usually me, will do this. And then you stand there and you do this for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
They have machines that do this. We would like to get one someday. I would like to get one someday. But for now, we do it all just with these hands. So we are constantly doing this, and that creates the inside of the egg will get a continuous layer, so it won't be all chocolate on one side and really thin on the other.
Excellent.
So-
So you just have to do it very evenly.
Evenly and slowly and continuously.
I have one last question I can think of, but
Sure.
and that is, if someone wanted something custom made, I know that you have, one could come in with the pictures and have something painted, which is obviously quite unique. But what if someone wanted, they say, because when I first came in here, you had a very, to me it was very unique. You can tell me what it was, but it was some sort of spicy. It was really tasty, and then at the end it got you, and it was really tasty. If one was to come in and say, hey, I'd like to get something like that for you, and you put this ingredient, what type of volume does one need to do in order to make it worth it for you folks to do something custom like that?
To do a custom bonbon, if probably 16 or more.
Okay.
We have a 16-piece box, an 8 and a 4.
Gotcha.
But to do something, I know we've done weddings, we've done
Right on.
baby showers, we've done special birthday things, but usually 16-piece box is what we require minimum. Same thing if you were going to do a custom bar for weddings or,
Yep.
or something like that, we require a dozen.
Is that
bars.
something they just do on the website and make an order that way, or do they call you up and discuss it with you and then do
That
it
would be a come in, let us
Yep.
know what you're thinking. We have a quick little meeting about things like colors and is it an outside wedding? If it's an outside wedding, maybe not chocolate. Maybe we'll send you to one of the fabulous people that makes cookies around here.
Excellent.
Chocolate and outside in July doesn't go well.
No, right.
But we'll go through all of those things and then talk about all different options. We have people that have spent $20 per person on favors for a wedding for 200 people, and we have people that have spent $350.
Wow.
Come buy chocolate.
Come buy chocolate. Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Very appreciate it.
That
Excellent.
was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, thank you.